This is a trigger warning. This is a very disturbing story that takes place in Melville, Long Island. I'm highlighting this story because of the nature of this particular crime. Many of us live near in neighborhoods with individuals and people who are unassuming, who look normal, so to speak, who live in homes with well-manicured lawns, and they go to work every day. But beneath lies something sinister. And that's exactly what happened with this particular person that lived on Long Island. It is an awful, depraved story. But I want to highlight it because we need to understand that there are some individuals that have given themselves over, that there's no hope for, that there's nothing that you can do. All the prayers won't help. The Bible speaks about those who have a reprobate mind and that they will not change, period. No matter what you do, how many prayers you send up. And it's also a cautionary tale for parents, adults, anyone with children, or just for anyone to think about the fact that we really don't know people until we know them. People can put a mask on, they can hide. And as I study behavioral health and psychology, I come to understand that there are individuals in this world whom they are dangerous and dangers to our society and mankind. Let's look at this story and I'll come back with my commentary.
Tonight against a child therapist on Long Island. Renee Hoberman is accused of distributing child pornography involving infants. And prosecutors tonight warning that she is a danger to the community. Here's Long Island reporter Shantae Lance.
Long Island child therapist Renee Hoberman was arrested and charged with distribution of child pornography.
Gut-wrenching a little bit. You know, your stomach turned when you heard about everything she did.
The 36-year-old pleaded not guilty, but in a criminal complaint, federal prosecutors say Renee Hoberman, who also goes by the name Raina, quote, distributed heinous and disturbing child, including videos showing infants being trained and raped. Prosecutors also say while posing as a man, Hoberman claimed to have produced children and offered others the opportunity to use children.
It's upsetting. The half of our block are kids, and they're all great kids, so hearing something like that, you never know what's going on behind doors and stuff like that.
Her Plainview neighbors say her home on Pine Street was searched yesterday.
I saw them coming out with, like, garbage bag-looking bags full of stuff.
Prosecutors say several electronic devices were seized, including an iPhone, which allegedly contained several videos of child use in a hidden photos folder and sexual images of children shared with others on a Telegram account. Hoberman was held without bail. She worked part-time as a child therapist. Renee Hoberman worked here in Melville at LifeStance Health. Managers at this therapy office say they had no idea about the charge. They take it very seriously. They don't believe any children were harmed and that she's since been fired.
I haven't seen her since she was a little tiny kid. And all of a sudden, she's grown up and she's moved out and she came back and she's a monster. And you're like, what happened?
That's back. I wanted to show you something because when I see things like this, I tend to look for more context clues as to exactly what's going on with this situation. And it never fails when I start to look back and look at things or look at pictures for context clues, it always shows up.
Hoberman is accused of distributing child.
Okay, let's stop it right here. This is her. She looks totally different. I don't know if this is her when she was younger. One of the things that I can tell you is her eyes look dead. Dead, as in D-E-A-D. But if you look around her neck, you see a pentagram. This is satanic. Period, point blank. Her eyes are literally dead. There is no life in her eyes. None whatsoever. And I look for those context clues because a lot of these individuals will wear jewelry that tell you who they are and who they serve. I'll see half moons. I'll see, just like what we see here around her neck is a pentagram. Let me see if I can enlarge it. Do you see it right there? And look at her eyes. They're dead. I wouldn't even deal with someone like this. I know people say, but the eyes are the window to the soul, and this woman is soulless. They had her held without bail, and they said she is a danger. And I want to highlight to families who may have their kids in therapy, be there for your children. She worked part-time as a therapist. And one of the things that I'm coming to see is those people who are with that dark triad, the sociopaths, the psychopaths, many of them will go into professions where people are vulnerable. Likely not everybody, but there is something about that. They'll go into law. They will go into medicine, may become a doctor or a surgeon. They'll go into nursing, or they even go into becoming a psychiatrist, psychologist, or therapist, where they can have access. Some of these people are so sadistic where they can have access to individuals. That's why I tell you, and I will warn you, if you have children that are in therapy, sit in there with the therapy session. We don't always know who these people are and what their intent is. And if you feel for whatever reason that your therapist is not helping, but maybe harming or saying some off the wall crazy stuff, go find yourself another therapist. Excuse yourself. Don't feel guilty. You don't owe anybody anything. Excuse yourself and don't ever take your child or yourself back, especially with children. I wonder what she was saying to these particular children. When I started looking even further, I went to the New York Post and I started looking even further. And look at this woman right here, this depraved individual. And what is she holding? A baby. She's holding a baby. She was a child therapist. She admitted to distributing extremely vile and unthinkable videos that depicted horrific SA of babies. Okay? She says she got off on it. Disgusting. Okay? Some of these things that she had on her phone depicted babies 6 months old and 1 year old. And look, she's holding a baby right here. Okay? She was a therapist, a licensed social worker from Plainview, Long Island. And she posted this stuff online. Depraved, that's what they call her. She's a vile individual. I don't know, the authorities were alerted. And the U.S. Attorney General Joseph Nocella Jr. said she admitted to this stuff. She absolutely admitted to it, which is unthinkable. Okay, it's unthinkable. And this here is her license. She was a licensed clinical social worker, and her application was surrendered. Yeah, her application was surrendered. She surrendered her license. Okay, April 8th, 2025. Okay, this is from New York State. So she was an actual licensed clinical social worker. She took the exam. So when I tell you that there are individuals who go in, this was the enforcement action. This was her license information. She was licensed in 2020. And she became a licensed clinical social worker, and she took the exam. But her license has been surrendered because she could not come back to the board and tell them anything else. She admitted to doing what she did. So I'm here to tell you that there are just some individuals who are reprobate. There's nothing that you can do with them. Let's finish looking at some of these other pictures. But this picture here told everything that I needed to know. It told me everything that I needed to know. Now, you see, her neighbor said, I don't know. She went away. That must have been the house that she lived in on Long Island. They said there was a multitude of children on the block. That's why I never used to let my children go over to anybody's house, because I don't know what's going on in these people's homes. They said there were a multitude of children on the block, that she left as a little girl. The neighbor said he never saw her, and all of a sudden she came back as a monster. And this is exactly what you would call a monster. Someone with a dead soul that gets off on child SA and child graping. That it is totally depraved and vile. She's a danger to society. I think the maximum she could get is 20 years. So she may get out sooner. I don't know. But this is a story that I wanted to highlight because a lot of people don't believe that these things can happen. I don't know if they have cognitive dissonance or what, but there are people who go into these professions to prey on those that are weak and in vulnerable positions. And so if you are patient, you're going to the hospital most of the time for something where you're sick. Some of them become surgeons. When I started doing my research, there's certain professions that these people go into. A lot of them are business, finance, surgeons, and not all surgeons, because some surgeons go in to really help people, but there are some sadistic people who go in to these professions for the wrong reasons. And it is well known in the nursing profession that some surgeons are just very eccentric and very different. And in my opinion, some of them think they're God. But then there are those who go in to become psychiatrists and therapists who, for the very, very wrong reason, because they know people are vulnerable and they get to hear the stories and all the details of a person's life or childhood that may have been detrimental. These are the people who will request people's medical records because they want to be nosy, because they have the credentials to request certain documents. They'll do it. They'll do that to their family members. I'm telling you, it's very sadistic. And I wanted to highlight this because I said, nah, this is demonic. And sure enough, this girl is wearing a pentagram around her neck. So it lets me know what she's into and what she's possibly been into. But all I know is the authorities are saying she is a danger. This is not a person you would want around your children. You would not want, but these are people on your block. And from that story, you see she was in a well-manicured, look at her. She would be very unassuming. That's why you have to, the person that shows up is the person that shows up. But the person who's really there behind the mask, it takes time. But you have to not be so busy as a parent to say, oh, I'm just dropping my child off to therapy. You don't know what's going on with that child. I would be sitting there waiting. And if this person says anything out of the way, abnormal, inappropriate, as a therapist, you should be outie 5,000. You should be finding yourself, your child, or whomever. She had a fetish. She had a fetish for children ages like, she said, let's see here. She participated in perverted online chat rooms in which she posed as a man of several. She claimed that she would have acts with children and would punish the children by doing all type of disgusting things. She uploaded videos of this type of abuse. It was on her cell phone. It's disgusting. She put it on Kick. It says authorities zeroed in on Hoberman after they received several tips about this. Okay, this is disgusting. But look at who she was holding, and she was working part-time on Long Island as a therapist. They say they think that no children were harmed. Well, do they know for sure? So that's why we have to ask our children, speak to our children. And if our children are young and going to therapy, don't just drop them off to the therapist or the therapist tell you, well, oh no, you can't come in. Find another therapist. Find another, because when they're young like that, you need to be able to watch over your children because you have sickos like this running around here today. And she's a woman. But she was into some other demonic stuff. This is demonic. Anybody who does that or who entertains things like of this nature, they clearly have to be depraved. Very, very depraved. Guys, this is what's going on out here. And when I look at these different crimes in different states, whether it's New York or Georgia or other states, I always go back to a commonality to see. 1, if the person has been into corn. 2, if the person has had a record or history of this. 3, if the person has into any type of ritualistic abuse and or into any type of deviance, or if the person is into any satanic type of things. And 9 times out of 10, I'll look for pictures in their home, and I'll see the pentagram right there. Most people might overlook it, and maybe in the news they may not associate it, or they just want to hide it. But these are facts. Some people are into very, very dark things, people, okay? You're not going to know because they're not going to tell you. They're not going to come to you and tell you, I'm a monster. This is what I do. This is how I get down. Because they don't want to be recognized or penalized or looked down upon as not being, conforming to societal norms. One thing, a lot of these individual sociopaths, they don't want to be exposed. So they hide beneath and they cloak themselves within certain professions. And like I said, as I study behavioral health and I do the research, I find that some individuals will go and get a PhD and become therapists because it's a way of them preying on others. Not because they want to help anybody, because they're sadistic. They're nosy. They want to get information on people. So they go into respective professions. What a way to hide. And I'm not saying all doctors, nurses, therapists. No, there are good ones. But I'm talking about the ones who specifically go into these professions and become judges, lawyers, the respected professions, CEOs. And some of them are truly, truly depraved. And some of them, there's no hope. And you won't know. Some of them are very successful. But when you peel the layers, some of them have never gotten caught. There are people who are sadistic, mass unalivers that just have never gotten caught. And that's why we have to use our wisdom and our discernment in these days. If you looked at this woman, her holding a baby, and the fact that she was a clinical social worker, you're thinking, oh, she's here to help, when really she's there to harm. Now, these look like two different people. This is her probably more recently. This picture here from Channel 7, this looks like her when she was younger. But I see that pentagram around her neck. Let me know what you think about this, guys. We have to stay vigilant. We have to use our wisdom and discernment. And when things seem off with certain relationships, it could be a professional relationship with doctor and patient. It could be professional relationships at work. It could be a relationship with your neighbor. If something just seems off, follow your intuition and your God-given, your God-given gut feelings. This is protection for you. He gave you that as a means of protection. And like I said, there's some individuals who will go and become a therapist, social worker, but only to go into those professions because they know people are vulnerable. So let me know what you think about this story. Like, share, subscribe. This is just a warning. This is what's out here in this world. And the man on her block in New York on Long Island described her appropriately as a monster. These are the people that even if you let her out, she's a predator. And she will prey and hurt and injure and even unalive without her eyes are so dead. And I would not hesitate. No, I'm not a doctor. That if they did assess her, she has no empathy. She has no remorse. She has no conscience that they would say she was a sociopath, a psychopath, or one of those very, very dangerous individuals. She would score very high as a female. And that's why we have to be vigilant. We cannot just think, oh, because it's a family member, that these people may not have sociopathy. Just some of the things that they may have done. Look at some of the things people in your family from when they were children. Some of the things that they have done. And that's what interests me in this field of behavioral health, is to understand, yes, you want people to get help and get healed, but there are some people the Bible talks about are reprobate. They have no conscience and there's nothing that you can do. And they'll tell you, I don't feel anything. Will you do it again? They'll go, yeah, I'll do it again. So guys, there are people who walk among us who for whatever reason look like they're human. They have human skin and eyes, and they are human. Somebody's child, daughter, son, uncle, brother, mother. But some of them do not operate according to the laws of the land, in consciousness, in ethics, in empathy. And some of them are professionals. Let me know what you think about this. Like, share, subscribe, hit that little bell, and I will see you on the next upload. Thank you so much.